from Buffalo Wild Wings on Louise Avenue in Sioux Falls. Welcome to Benchwarmers. Today's featured guests are host of Midco Sports Network's Varsity Sports Live, Jason Andera, head football coach at Dakota State University, Josh Anderson, host of Midco Sports Network's Coyote Corner, Jay Elson, and our Benchwarmers host, Midco Sports Network's Tom Neiman.
Hello, welcome to Benchwarmers. We are in Sioux Falls at the Louise Avenue location, Buffalo Wild Wings. This is Benchwarmers, and welcome. It's football time, gentlemen.
Yes.
And we're going to talk a little high school football with Mr. Andera here, a little North Star Athletic Conference football with Josh Anderson, Jay Elson on the Missouri Valley Football Conference. But we're going to start in the NFL, guys, and talk about some predictions here. We're going to talk smart, some smack, see how smart we are. But I was at a wedding with a bunch of Wisconsin people over the weekend, Elson, and the joke was, why doesn't South Dakota have an NFL team? Because then Minnesota would want one too.
Oh, yeah.
Boom. So let's just start there with the Packers and the Vikings. And what do you see in the NFC North this year?
Well, I think it's, I think the main thing about this division that we all want to see as people from this part of the country is just improvement. Obviously, it was a little less than
5 wins,
stellar
yes,
last year.
yes.
Yeah. So, I think improvement's the name of the game, and I think most of these teams have improved. I think the Packers have gotten better. They used the draft like they normally do, and they got better on the defensive side, which was a huge part of them. If they were going to be a true Super Bowl contender, they had to get better on that side of the ball. I think the Bears improved. I think the Lions improved marginally, in my opinion. And I think the Vikings have gotten better. I think they're still at the bottom, looking up at the rest of the league, or the division rather. But that remains to be seen, because last year we went into the season thinking the Vikings were going to be better than they were, and they weren't. So somebody's bound to fall flat and not play as well as we expect them to. It's just a matter of which one of these four it's going to be this year.
Josh, tell us your allegiance first. Are you a Vikings fan, and what do you feel about this?
Not even close. I'm a Chicago Bears fan.
Ooh,
so
even better. All right.
Yeah, I am sold on what they're doing this year with the preseason games already, beating the Philadelphia Eagles and hanging in there with them, and then of course the Jacksonville Jaguars. Even though I think they're much improved, I think the Bears are ready to go. And you're right, as far as the Minnesota Vikings are concerned, we are close enough. My wife likes the Vikings, so we get to watch them at my house and whenever she wants. So I'd like to just see them pick a quarterback and stick with it. I think that would help them in more ways than one. I think their defense is solid, but they gotta protect the quarterback and stick with the guy and let him lead.
They gave up more points than anybody else in the NFL last year. That's where the Vikings have got to get better. Jandy, represent the Vikings here.
Yeah, we've got Vikings, we've got Packers, we got Bears, no Lions,
Chiefs.
But I think that NFC North is the most improved division, like Jay said. We saw the NFC West a few years ago go from one of the worst divisions in football to one of the best. I really think the NFC North has a chance to be one of the best divisions in all of the NFL. And, what do the Vikings have to do? You're right. It's defense and get solid quarterback play, which, hey, both their quarterbacks at this point have over 100 passer ratings, so looking up.
All right, last year it was Green Bay, Chicago, Detroit, Minnesota. You see that changing at all? Other than Chicago maybe jumping Green Bay?
I'd like to think that could happen, with the way they advertise their defense and they got back into Chicago Bear mode there. I think they're going to be just fine. I'm going to take the Bears to win that division.
I got to stick with the Packers. That's part Homer, part just looking at it and trying to be objective, as objective as I can anyway. But I think they do. I think they finished in the same order they did a year ago.
I think it's Packers, Bears, 1-2. I think Packers are one of the toughest teams in the NFL. I had to pick Packers.
And we've talked to other panels this year on this show about the Vikings, 8 wins. Can they get to 8 wins?
I was thinking 7 wins, honestly, but after watching them in the preseason, 8 is a good number. And their schedule is favorable in the second half of the season, so maybe if Teddy Bridgewater comes along and can give them a good November, December, 8-9 wins, I'll take that.
Can it be a 4-way tie at 8-8 in that division?
No, it will not. All right. I'll go on record.
I'm thinking the Packers, Jay, are still going to, even though I have no allegiances, I do to the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's switch over to the AFC West, another conference with at least some people around here with some interest in Denver and Kansas City. And Denver, again, scored more points than anybody in the NFL last year. And Jay, you're saying they even got better mostly on the defensive side of the ball.
They really hit it hard in free agency this year. I don't think there's any question about that. They bring in DeMarcus Ware from Dallas. They bring in Aqib Talib at corner from New England last year. They also brought in a safety to help on that, because that was the weak point. That was the big reason. We saw what happened to them in the Super Bowl, and the defense, or lack thereof, was a big part of that. I think you also have to look at the fact that they're getting a couple of really big guys back from injury, and Ryan Clady, their left tackle, and Von Miller, the linebacker, who's such a one of the best guys at his position in the NFL. So I think just what they brought in from outside, what they're getting back internally, yeah, I think they got better.
I do like the Chiefs, but you just can't go against Peyton Manning. And like Jay said, they strengthened all their weak spots on defense. Maybe not all of them, but boy, they sure did step up from where they were last year. I just think Denver's the front runner in that division.
I can't argue with that. There's such a fine line between winning and losing in the NFL. And when you have Peyton Manning, I mean, he is that difference maker. And I would be shocked if the Broncos don't win that division.
All right, Kansas City was just so close last year, and then they dumped that playoff game that was ridiculous against the Colts. So I don't think they can beat Denver again. We'll take Denver in that division. But, all right, Super Bowl 49 coming up in Glendale, Arizona. It's on February 1st this year. Does Denver get back there? Who you got in the Super Bowl?
I think Denver does get back there. I like them heavily to return as AFC champions. On the NFC side of things, though, I think really there's three teams that kind of stand a cut above the rest, and this might surprise you fellas. The Packers is not one of those teams I think is in that group. I think you've got Seattle, of course. You've got San Francisco. That NFC West is going to be ridiculously tough again. And then I like New Orleans. I think New Orleans improved a lot on the defensive side of the ball. Jimmy Graham is back with a new contract. Not entirely happy because he's not getting paid quite what he wanted to. But then Drew Brees, and just a really top-notch quarterback there. I like the Saints to represent the NFC.
Well, I'm not going to re-argue his points. I completely agree with the Saints, Seattle, San Francisco, and New England. I mean, those guys are always going to be competing, but going to kind of throw in a sleeper there. I like a healthy RG3 and a Deshaun Jackson at the Washington Redskins.
Really?
I think we got a sleeper coming through right there.
If you think you've figured out the NFL, it always changes every year. So I'm going to go with the sleeper in the AFC. I think Andrew Luck takes that next step. I think the Colts will do it. They've got the easiest division in the NFC. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think the Packers.
I
think the Packers have the most complete team, and with the healthy Aaron Rodgers, they've had such injury problems over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
If they can get half of those injuries to go away, I mean, why not? Packers, Colts.
All right, I agree with the Colts. I'm going to go with Carolina.
Oh, wow.
On the other side,
Okay.
Cam Newton, I think they got some possibilities there. I'm going to go with that.
Very good defense again. So that certainly is going to help.
He's a difference maker. That's a guy you never want to bet against.
Kelvin Benjamin, don't bet against him either. That's your top target, Tom, in the NFC.
There is your Super Bowl predictions. All right, when we come back, we're going to talk about some college football. We'll talk the FBS, the FCS, the Missouri Valley Football Conference, and the North Star Athletic Association with Dakota State's Trojans when we come back.
Benchwarmers on Midco Sports Network is presented by Buffalo Wild Wings.
Welcome back to Benchwarmers. We are at Buffalo Wild Wings in Sioux Falls talking football. Time for college football now, and we get a playoff for the first time in big-time college football. They're going to take two bowl games. The Rose Bowl and the Sugar Bowl will be the semifinals, the national semifinal games on January 1st, and then they'll come back on a Monday after that, 2 weeks later, and play the national championship game. Thoughts on this? Is this a cool deal?
Oh, it'll be fun to watch. They still didn't quite get it right. Like we were just talking, if you did the FCS model, how much more fun would that be? It's still going to be hard to pick out who the top four teams are. There's usually a jumble right after that 2, 3 to 6 area. All these one-loss teams that you're going to have to fight over. So I guess it's good. They'll still get to talk about who should make it and who shouldn't make it.
It'll be a committee that selects the 4 teams that make the semis.
They'll get it wrong,
You think
probably.
they got it right or not, Jeff?
Well, as far as getting it right, no. Either go all in or go all out. Like you said, the playoff system works. It works from high school all the way up to every single college sport that there is. Why not just do it? Obviously, there's some behind-the-scenes money that's influencing every decision being made, but yeah, you know what? Some people are going to be happy, but majority are going to be unhappy, just like anything else. No matter what.
Make it how many teams, though?
Oh, well, I think 16 is the best. However, now that messes with schedule. So then when do you start? Do you cut everybody off at just a 10-game season? So
how often do you argue that the 15th best team should be the champion, though.
Yeah.
I think 8 is a good number. Like, if you're in the top 8.
Well, that's hard to argue that. But,
yeah, it's, I suppose.
When you get up into the 15s, now you get those Boise States and those, just schools in those Mountain West conferences that did very well but didn't get a sniff in the college bowl rankings that won an opportunity. Well, 16 would be an awful lot. If we're going ideal, 8 for sure would probably be a whole lot better.
Step in the right direction.
Absolutely.
Least, right?
I think, it's hard to complain too much because we're finally getting what we've all longed for, and that is a playoff to determine a true national champion. That being said, I think there's been so much talk about the Power 5 here over the last couple of weeks with everything that's been going on with them. It's really going to be interesting to see which one of them gets left out of this equation at the end, and then just how big of a stir that creates when one of those Power 5 does not have a representative. Maybe they're an undefeated team, but they don't get in based on whatever model it is that they're going to use to select the Final Four. So, I think that's going to be an exciting time, is to see what happens when that day finally arrives.
Big Ten will probably be the one shorted out.
Could be, yeah.
And the Big Ten shakes up a little bit this year with Ohio State and Michigan State in the same division. So if one of them does not make it, and they're 2 of the 4 best teams there, should they both be able to get in? That's another question of how this is all set up.
It's almost the fact where we do have an 8-team playoff because every big conference is trying to get to that conference championship game. And so, sure, we have that Final Four, so-called, but where do you stop? Do you cut off those conference championship games that are just so big and so important and fun to watch already? And so
we're all going to watch it. That's
and how much weight is going to be placed on that conference championship game, because not all of the leagues have one. So, how much, if you win that or you lose that, does that help you or hurt you enough to keep you in or out? That's the big part of the question.
Still going to be tons of debate over the 4 teams.
And they like that
get in there. All right, Florida State, by the way, the #1 team in the AP poll here in the preseason. Let's talk about some local college football and quick thoughts on the Missouri Valley, Jay, as we get going here in a couple of weeks. North Dakota State picked to win the division or the conference again. South Dakota State #2. The Coyotes USD come in at #8. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I think, again, as we've become accustomed to, this is going to be an incredibly powerful league. I don't think there's any doubt about that. You've got the 3-time defending national champs, but they've got a lot of change. They lost a lot of guys from last year. They've got new coaching staff and all that. So that's obviously going to factor into it as well. You've got a team in SDSU that's just been kind of waiting for its chance to kind of pounce on the Bison, and how sweet that would be for them to be the ones to knock the Bison off that pedestal. UNI is going to be a pretty good team. I think they fell far short of expectations last year. That's a team that's going to be in the mix as well. As far as the Coyotes are concerned, I think they feel like they got shortchanged a little bit. I think they feel like they showed last year that they can play in this league, compete in this league with everybody, top to bottom, maybe except for NDSU going into this year anyway. So that'll be interesting. They're going to be playing with a chip on their shoulders, but I think it's going to be a great league again. It's going to be a fun one.
Maybe it's not a bad thing that they were picked where they were.
Bison being favored against Iowa State. That's a huge thing for the Missouri Valley Football Conference.
All right, tell us about the North Star Athletic Association, Josh. This is the second year that this league has been together. Who's in the league and who won it last year, and where does Dakota State fit in the North Star?
Last year we had a tie with Valley City and Jamestown. We're co-champs, and had Dakota State won our last game, there would have been a 3-way tie. So, boy, it was a little odd the first year. This year we got 7 teams in. Dickinson State came back into the conference with us, and we also added Waldorf out of Iowa. And then you have Mayville, Valley City, Jamestown as well, and then Presentation out of Aberdeen. So, including us, that's the 7 teams. And there is good competition in there. It really is from week to week. There's just no game off, and so being prepared, that's exciting though. Being a part of a conference where every week you've really got to focus and play your best. So.
And you get going when? Dakota State opens up when and where?
We open up 2 weeks, August 30th. We're at home with Mayville State. So we're very excited about that first game. Now we start off with a conference game because 2 years ago when we weren't in a conference, we already had our schedule set. And so next year it'll be back to normal where all conference games will be in the back half of the season. But this year we just got to make do with what we have because we had contracts before we got into the conference. So. All
right, the North Star Athletic Association. Check it out. Pay attention this year with Josh and the Dakota State Trojans. A lot of South Dakota kids that get to play at this level, and we'll talk some South Dakota and North Dakota high school football when we come back on Benchwarmers.
Benchwarmers on Midco Sports Network is presented by Buffalo Wild Wings.
Welcome back to Benchwarmers. We're going to talk some high school football now with our boys here. And coming up on August 29th, on Friday, we have a new show here with Jason Andera covering high school football. It's called Varsity Sports Live. We'll have it on Friday nights from 10:30 to 11:30. Jay and Jason will continue with Varsity Sports Now on Wednesday nights after that, covering high school football in North Dakota and South Dakota. Jason, just a little bit about what's coming back in the big schools, the biggest schools in South Dakota, where you had Lincoln and Roosevelt in the championship last year.
You could see those two same teams again. Lincoln lost a ton, but trust me, they have got some good talent coming back up the ranks. But there's no question Roosevelt is the #1 team in the state. Barring any injuries or anything crazy, they really could go undefeated and win another title. A lot of good teams, though, in that next tier. Washington is much improved. O'Gorman's got a quarterback back. The quarterbacks in Sioux Falls are outstanding. And then you've got Brandon Valley, who probably is the second best quarterback in the state, in Jake Como. And if you look outside of Sioux Falls, Rapid City Central returns a lot of starters, and they could be in the mix in the top 5.
Good. Would be great to see one of the Rapid City schools challenge a little bit.
They could be in the top 5, yep.
Get in the mix. All right, in 11 AA, the second year of the new class, where Pierre and Watertown went to the championship last year.
You know, Pierre's another team that lost a ton of starters, and people are kind of dismissing them, but I love the coaching staff they have in Pierre. Jason Poppinga is an outstanding coach. They get it done on defense no matter who they have, and watch out for a junior quarterback named Brevin Kaiser. So Pierre could be one of those teams in the mix, but I think everybody agrees that Brookings has taken that next step up. Their class of juniors from last year, now seniors, and then adding Mikey Daniel, who left and came back, ran for 900+ yards as a sophomore, could be the best player in the state.
What about Harrisburg?
Harrisburg, they could be right there in the end as well. That's a team that's been on the up for the last couple of years. They've got the numbers now where they can compete with these teams in this class. And I would not be shocked to see Harrisburg, Brookings, Pierre, one of those teams at the end of in Yankton. That's another team that'll be in that Final Four.
All right, quickly on 11A, Madison was in the championship game last year against West Central. What do you think they've got coming back?
You know, lost a lot of talent, but after watching them this summer, they came to our summer camp. They really did well. They performed well against some big schools. Aberdeen Central came down, looked good, and Madison really competed well against them. So I don't want to give anything away for that coaching staff, but yeah, Madison's going to be another good team this year.
All right, quickly, Jason, in North Dakota, the big schools up there, Bismarck High and Fargo South have been the definition of dominating this class.
Last 8 champions have either been Bismarck or Fargo South. We have a new high school in Bismarck this year, which is going to start taking some numbers away from BHS. So that might affect them a little bit, but 2 All-State players back in John Tharaldson, Hayden Gibson. They've got a head start on the rest of the WDA. In the East, Fargo South had 3 losses in the regular season, but really turned it on. And they've got 2 big D1 recruits back, so a very tough to pick against Fargo South.
All right. Week from Friday, high school football. Back
can't wait.
Again.
Let's do it.
Again, Varsity Sports Live will air on August 29th for the first time here on Midco Sports Network. When we come back to Buffalo Wild Wings, we'll go into the crowd here and our Winging It question of the week.
Benchwarmers on Midco Sports Network is presented by Buffalo Wild Wings.
All right, time for our Winging It question of the week. We go into the lunch crowd here at Buffalo Wild Wings and get a question from somebody, and for that we go to Alex Heinert. Alex?
Thanks, Tom. I'm here with Troy Smith from South Dakota. Troy, a big college football guy. He's got a question for our panel.
Who do you think will win the Heisman this year?
Troy has said that he's an Ohio State fan. You think maybe Braxton Miller has got a shot out of the season?
He's got a pretty good shot. He just needs to work on his passing.
Cool. Good analysis from Troy. All right, back to you guys. What do you think?
All right, thank you, Troy. And he doesn't start school until Thursday, by the way, so that's why he's here at Wild Wings having lunch this week. Anyway, Troy Smith is an Ohio State fan because of that. But the question is the Heisman Trophy. It comes down usually to the best quarterback in college football. Who do you think?
Well, I think Marcus Mariota at Oregon is a guy you certainly have to consider. Jameis Winston obviously is coming back, the defending Heisman Trophy champion. Braxton Miller at Ohio State, his boy, I'm sure. But another guy I want to throw in there is Bryce Petty from Baylor. I mean, this guy led a very prolific offense last year, and he's got a lot of weapons back. So Bryce Petty's a guy that I think is going to be in the conversation as well.
All right, pick one of those, Jeff.
I don't know if I need to add more to the list. I'm a Marcus Mariota fan.
Yeah.
Hey, Braxton Miller won a ton of awards in the Big Ten last year, Offensive Player of the Year. I wouldn't be surprised to see him, but I'm with you. Bryce Petty, I think, is going to put up huge numbers.
But they just need a campaign. It's always one of the biggest names coming back from some time. And I'm going to go with Mariota, too, just because he's from a big-time program, and he's going to put up a lot of points this year. So it's just it's an overhyped award. Jameis Winston,
gotta be
possibly,
James.
but
Yeah, I'll get a good look at him in a couple of weeks. I'll let you know what I think.
Mariota was the South Dakota Coyotes go out there and play Oregon to open the season. All right, when we come back, our poll question this week is what kind of football do you like to watch? The NFL, college, or high school? We'll show you our results when we come back.
Benchwarmers on Midco Sports Network is presented by Buffalo Wild Wings.
Our poll question this week here on Benchwarmers, what is your favorite football to watch? And not surprisingly, the National Football League, 63% of the votes here this afternoon. You got big-time college football at the national level at 19%, local college football at 6%, and then high school football 12% of the votes. And what would your vote be here, Jason?
I'm obviously heavily invested in high school football, and I love that atmosphere of high school football. I'd have to vote that, but I never miss an NFL game either. I mean, you can't go wrong with any of them.
If you're going to watch a game, what's it going to be?
Well, I prefer the FBS. I mean, I like high school and NFL games, but only certain games. Other times when, you know, some teams are on that I just don't know or don't care about, it's not near as fun, whereas the FBS, I could watch any game. It just seems like the intensity from start to finish is far more exciting, and I like that speed.
For me, the NFL and FBS football are pretty much a push. I'm a little surprised to see that big of a gap between the two. I guess if I had to pick one, I'd go NFL, but just slightly over FBS. I love the Big Ten, and so I'll watch any one of those games any chance I get.
Yeah, I'm kind of a college football guy. Love the Bison and the Jacks and the Coyotes, but big-time college football as well. Notre Dame, I'm going to root for them this year for some reason. Carolina is going to win more than 4 games. Got some flack for that on my Super Bowl prediction, but Dakota State opens up on August 30th at home against Mayville State. High school football gets going here on the 29th. Thanks to everybody here at Buffalo Wild Wings. We'll see you.